children should have the right to vote. And I don't just mean 16 and 17-year-olds. I mean that a toddler should be able to toddle into a voting centre in a national election, cast a real ballot, and have that vote counted just the same as any other. I really believe this, and by the end of this video, I think you will too. Greetings, children and adult oppressors. I'm your host, Silly Conversations. In most countries, you need to be 18 years old to vote in national elections, and there are no countries where the voting age is lower than 16. Since this is such a universally accepted rule, we should start by discussing some of the obvious reasons for why children should not be given the right to vote. Number 1, children aren't smart enough to understand political policy and decide which politicians to support. This is related to number 2, children don't have the emotional maturity for voting, and they'll be easily swayed by propaganda. Number 3, voting rights for children would cause division within family units, and besides, their family members with voting rights can already represent their interests. And number 4, children don't actually want to be able to vote, and this isn't a real issue. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I got my notes mixed up. Those were all actual, real reasons given to justify denying women the right to vote. That's right, you've been tricked into agreeing with sexism. But children actually aren't as smart or mature as adults. So, that's obviously not true for all children and all adults, but even if it is true on average, we still run into a pretty serious threshold problem. If a pair of identical twins are born 10 minutes either side of midnight on the annual voter registration deadline, then there will be an election where one twin gets to vote and the other doesn't. For the younger twin, that means years of working, paying taxes and obeying the law as an adult with no democratic representation, despite being the same biological age as their older sibling who got to vote. Okay, but that's a pretty weird edge case. Not really. In a large democracy like the US, hundreds of thousands of 17-year-olds will miss any given voter registration deadline by only a few days or weeks. Besides, intelligence in the population is thought to lie on an approximately normal distribution. That's a bell curve that looks like this. Most people are in the middle, pretty average. Some are smart and some are not so smart. Even if humans experienced a sudden massive spike in brain power on the day they turn 18, which of course doesn't actually happen, in big countries there would still be millions of 16 and 17-year-olds who are smarter than the average adult. So, why don't we just move the voting age to 16? That's not the point. No matter where you put the voting age, there are still going to be millions of people who can't vote, despite being smarter and more mature than millions of people who can. If your plan is to prevent dumb and immature people from voting, then an age cutoff incorrectly deprives millions of people of their right to vote, which is fundamentally wrong and undemocratic. Also, what do you even mean by maturity? The state, fact, or period of being mature. Oh gee, thanks Google. Cambridge Dictionary, what do you got? The quality of behaving mentally and emotionally like an adult. Okay, so the logic would be that children can't vote because they're not mature, and being children makes them not mature by definition. Cool. This argument that Group X don't have the right emotions to vote properly was super effective when applied against women, because it's so vaguely defined that it's impossible to disprove. Of course, in practice, one of the main reasons that many men didn't support giving women the right to vote was that it just seemed silly. Like, women? Voting? Women? There wasn't any real logic behind the opposition, so much as historical inertia. Similarly, the main reason that you were probably against giving children the right to vote until 5 minutes ago is just that you've never really thought about it before. And on an emotional, gut instinct, non-rational level, that makes it seem silly. Just like women's rights seemed silly for men in the early 1900s. The core assumption of having an age or gender requirement for voting rights is that some people aren't smart or mature enough to vote correctly. But voting isn't something you can do correctly. Voting is how you exercise your basic right to be represented in government. If I vote for Logan Paul, and he immediately fills the municipal water supply with prime energy drink and loses the annual budget betting on a meme coin, he's still my representative. My vote for him does not become less legitimate because he made what other people consider to be bad decisions. If you fundamentally believe in democracy, then denying citizens the right to vote is bad. That's Democracy 101. Denying them the right to vote because they're part of a group that you suspect, on average, have traits that will make them more likely to vote wrong is ridiculous and unjustifiable. Also, not that it really matters, but for adults whose jobs don't require a lot of thinking, like YouTubers, school is often the most intellectually demanding period of our lives. Mathematics, science, history, languages. School is an intense daily brain workout, and when you graduate, that knowledge starts to fade if you're not using it regularly. A big chunk of the population are probably the smartest they'll ever be while in school as teenagers. Even if it were justifiable to deny less intelligent or less mature people the right to vote because they'll do it wrong, no one is suggesting we apply that logic to adults.
Actually, I would support voter competence testing for adults if the exam could be designed fairly, maybe by a non-partisan committee who...
Okay, cool. So from now on, only geniuses get to vote.
What?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't want average people voting. They only make average decisions. People love intelligence-based voting rights until it turns out that they're not smart enough to vote. Well, too bad. I believe that voting is an intrinsic human right from which the state derives its legitimacy. But you disagree, so from now on, only the smartest 1% of geniuses get to vote. And hey, why not replace those people with AI the second it starts beating them on the voter smarty pants test? All hail government.io. Democracy schmocracy. Who needs the consent of the governed when you can optimize bureaucratic decision-making, am I right?
So what, you just let everyone vote?
Yes. Every citizen who is capable of expressing a clear preference between candidates should have the right to vote.
But how would child voting actually work in practice? It's not like they can drive to a polling center.
Okay, so number one, fundamental rights don't need to be convenient to justify their existence. And number two, have them vote in schools. Let political parties come in to give a little speech and distribute pamphlets in civics class during the election campaign. And make sure to randomize the candidate order on ballots so that people who vote impulsively won't skew the results. Actually, we should really be doing that anyway, just in general. Look, I genuinely believe in democracy, not just as the least bad system of governance, but as an intrinsic human right. It's messy and it's stressful, and in every country on earth it needs serious reforms, but people have an absolute right to collectively control the government that controls them. Even if it would be more efficient to put a cabal of geniuses or a super intelligent AI in charge, efficiency is not the point. Universal suffrage. One person, one vote. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I'll hang around to debate with anyone who makes a particularly good counter-argument. If you want me to respond though, I'd recommend keeping it short and focusing on one main point. Also, anyone who wants to say that old people shouldn't be allowed to vote because it's not their future, don't bother. Your views are cringe, discriminatory, and vaguely fascist. Subscribe to help me hit 50k subs, and if you liked this video, you can check out my other content here. I'm Silly Conversations. Thanks for watching. See you all next time. Bye for now.